Welcome everyone. Claudia Bond here, Houston, Texas, the wonderful Henrik, senior trainer in Sweden there. And we want to welcome you and thank you for your time, both senior leaders and trainers, for being here for this pre-training for Date with Destiny to help you remember or perhaps this is your first time for Date with Destiny in-person event. So thank you very much for being here with this. It'll be a fairly short training and we hope you find it of much value. All right, Henrik, take it away.
Fantastic. Welcome, everyone. When I started in the Tony space, I ended up doing a lot of in-person events, first as a senior leader and then a trainer over almost a decade. And then when the pandemic hit, there was a new skill set required. You need to learn about the Slacks and the Zoom rooms and how to be present, how to create connection in the virtual space. And when I finally got back to in-person events, I came back for a Date with Destiny, there was a lot of things that I kind of forgot or was not in the groove of so much. And in the immortal words of Vicky St. George, you go like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. So the purpose of this training is really to help you bridge the skill set from the virtual to the in-person so you can show up at any event and have an absolutely incredible time. So if this is your first in-person event in a while, this will really help you remember. You'd be like, oh yeah, that's what we used to do. And if this is your first in-person event ever, congratulations. It is so much fun. And then you'll find yourself armed with a framework. You'll find yourself come to the event and sort of see where some of these pieces fit together. So we'll be covering the differences between virtual events and in-person events so you can show up, you can rock with full confidence and help a ton of people. So we're going to cover what to do before an in-person event. We're going to be covering what we're actually doing while we're there. And we're going to cover some of the things that you might want to do after the event as well to make sure you have a fantastic event, you come back relaxed and fun, and also that obviously help a lot of people. So Claudia is going to take about what do we do before the event?
Absolutely. Thanks, Henrik. Well, before the event, we've broken it down into 3 areas under this whole idea and concept of mindset. And you've all heard Tony say it many times from the stage and perhaps at Leadership Academy, that mindset is that 80-20 rule. 80% is mindset and 20% is the mechanics. Now, when you're on site, those 20% of mechanics are very important, and Henry's going to cover that in during the event. But I'm going to talk about getting yourself in state and in mindset correction before you go. And the 3 areas that I want to cover with you today are being prepared, being present, and actually dropping in your body like I need to right now, and then 3, being proactive. So let's start with point 1, prepared. And we will send out these notes. We have a few bullet points for you and we will share those with you. So being prepared, pre-training notes and videos. These are available on OneNote. There's a whole host of videos everywhere. There'll be a virtual guidebook to help you prepare for. And you really want to come with an outline and a knowing of what the Date with Destiny event looks like from day 0, the leadership days, and then day 1 through to day 6. The second thing that I would recommend in getting prepared for the event and sharpening your mindset is your trainer senior leader connection. Now we have both senior leaders here online watching this training and also trainers, and it's both very important that this is a 2-way conversation and commitment to getting those outcomes met. So in getting outcomes met, you need to know what are your outcomes. So you senior leader, what are your outcomes for this event? For you, both for your participants and your team and supporting your trainer, but also for yourself. And then trainers, of course, how do you want to run your team? How would you like to support your senior leader as a trainer in training? And then your event outcomes for both yourself as well. And then at the end of Date with Destiny, I think it was Natalia Jimenez, I loved how she did this. She would have she'd sort of do a preparation of seeing how her participants and seeing how she worked with a senior leader at the end of the event and really got herself in state and so engaged with it, like a true feeling of how this was going to roll out so that when it did start to unfold, it was familiar and you had a feeling of certainty. So thank you, Natalia, for sharing that top tip with me. The third thing in getting prepared before the event and in gaining your mindset is team signs and team chant and your names. So you want to be able to look up, there'll be in OneNote, there'll be some preparation ideas. Where do you order the team sign? How do you sign up so you don't have a team name that, if it's already taken? I know there's been a bit of hip and shouldering in the past, so you want to get ahead of the game there. And also to practice your team chant. I remember my first one when I went to Date with Destiny in person. And you want to get a rhythm. That's really important for you, because then if you have this certainty and deliverance and that it rolls off the tongue easily, then your team will feel that. Your senior leader can get on board with it as well. So that's really important. And then the names, and Henrik, can you help me here? Because I was trying to remember what I put names down for. Is that just their names for the leadership people as well on the posters?
Oh, it's the team identity, right? So it's
Oh,
the
team
name of the
identity.
team, yeah, which is going to go in line with the sign and with the chant and everything else that's going on.
Excellent. Thank you for that. See, this is a team effort. And then the fourth thing in being prepared is your trainer triad and your senior leader triad. What does that look like for you? What does the physiology for you being in that trainer triad, in that senior leader triad, what does that feel and look like? You're going to be in shirts, and Henrik's going to go through all of that. You're going to have a focus whilst you're in the event, and then you're going to be using language whilst you're there. And the idea is that this trainer and senior leader triad is one of absolute certainty. Okay, so that's for the preparation, the prior to the event. The next aspect is the presence, being absolutely present, in the room, walking around the room before the beginning of the day, during the day, and then at the end of the day, because you are going to be having some long hours, my friends, as we will also on the virtual world. So just please remember the first point, one team. We are one team, be it our senior leaders, other trainers and senior leaders, apart from your own team, the crew that are there supporting it. But also, we all pull together for registration. We all pull together to support customer service. And we certainly all be mindful of security, that will be around on site. So please be mindful of those aspects. Possibly the most important tip that I can share only from my own perspective and my own learning, and you'll get this too. So I smile because I hope it's a fun experience for you, is paying sensory acuity. You have to have room awareness across the room. So it's sort of like, you might be focused on something, you might be even talking with a participant, but you have a peripheral vision of what's going on in the room, especially towards the stage front and whoever's giving instructions from the stage. Because if Scott or Tony, whoever's on stage is giving instructions, we have to be listening, we have to be watching with that peripheral vision and making sure that we're following their instructions, because you're the point of contact with your team. So stage instructions, very important. And then the third part of being present is always being on task. Just knowing, what am I meant to be focusing on in this moment? What's coming up next? What may be needed ahead of time? So knowing what your day is that you're showing up for. So if it's day one, okay, I've got this idea of these things will be taking place. And very important, because I have, the little chicken dance, 5 minutes early is to be on time. Absolutely, really critical. So set your alarms, don't leave it to the last minute, set your alarms and give yourself that extra 5 to 10 minutes. And next point is our communication style. Under the umbrella of rapport, we've all heard that before, very important. And whose model of the world are you looking from? Having a clear understanding and communication between yourself, trainer and senior leader, but also with your leadership team. You're going to have Date with Destiny leadership participants, and they are participants who are going to be looking to you. And we want this to be a fun experience where their needs are met, and that they, like we all did ourselves as participants, join on and become leaders, senior leaders and trainers, because certainly the demand for all of us and our efforts in supporting Tony is really critical at this time. So thank you. And the last point on being present is massive flexibility. Do whatever I can't, the leg up in the air. Massive flexibility to be able to support whoever it is. So you might not be, it might not even be in regard to your team. You might have a fellow trainer or senior leaders. You might have another fellow senior leader who suddenly either got caught up. And this is where this massive flexibility comes in, that you need to be able to support one another. That's that whole idea of this one team, and the effect of the experience for the participants, but also the effect for each other. So we want to make this joyful, working together as one team and being massively flexible. The third area for mindset, so we had prepared, being present. The third area is being proactive. And, if you come in with this attitude of how can I help? How may I serve? Who can I support? These are really empowering questions that take the focus off you as a performer or you getting something from this, and actually really supporting the event itself. And you'll actually find that far more enjoyable and more fun and more relaxing. So definitely having that outward attitude. But we also need to have an inward reflection too. Self-care, team care, paying notice. Are you dehydrated? I can promise you you cannot drink enough water or electrolytes and keep your body. I double my vitamins. So that's another point I didn't even think of. I double my vitamin intake like about a week before, and then morning and night whilst I'm there at events. Definitely needing self-care and communicate with each other. If you need to have, hopefully you've got a room there on site. There'll be a trainer room and a senior leader room. Being able to take, a quick power nap break just to get you back re-energized, reinstated, and able to serve. It's no use trying to just push through. You need to be able to speak up front. So having that open communication style and supporting your own needs as well as the team's. Ownership, very important, of course, because at the end of the day, being proactive is about owning the team. So trainers, you are the captain of your ship. Senior leaders, you are the co-captain, learning how to become a captain. And hopefully you've got a really great rapport with with each other, and that you support one another to make sure not only the task's done, but that it's, it feels organized. It feels like you're being proactive about what's coming up next. So discuss the syntax, for example, and Henrik's going to talk about what will happen during, but have that preparation of what's needed. Take notes. I used to use the index cards, but I know now, of course, with our phones, we can quickly take notes during huddles. So Henrik will cover all of that. And then the last point that I've got, and as I say, we're going to share this with you, so you will get the notes, is interventions. In an in-person event, there is much more likely a higher impact for interventions, because you have these hallway discussions, or you might bump into someone, at the back of the room, and they'll come up to the trainer table and the senior leaders and ask for some support. So critical, getting back to that prepared step one, know your 7 master steps. Just know that they're not going to follow an order necessarily. You'll notice from Leadership Academy, when Tony does interventions, that they sort of dance around, but know those 7 master steps. Know the big 5 skill sets. So how do I create an anchor? How do I collapse an anchor? Do I have the outline for a phobia cure and New Orleans flexibility drill? And, often at Date with Destiny, especially when you'll be reviewing the documents beforehand, Henrik will go through those, is possibly a change personal history. So it's such a great opportunity to put our skills to practice. And you can always ask for help. You can't do it wrong if you're coming from the heart. And just encourage you to try to be, just in state saying you can do this. And the more prepared you are, the more present absolutely in that heart state, the more proactive you are about it, then there's the greater success for it. The main idea, of course, is to, listen for Lola Bandana gave me this clue last year, and I'm really appreciative, Lola, because I use it ever since. Listening to the participant, are they stuck in their state? Are they stuck in a story, or are they stuck and need a new strategy? And if we're listening between the lines of what they're saying and get that identified, and then can ask some questions to shift them, obviously moving state first is always a great way, and the best way. That will give you some clues to get them moving, with the idea that they're best to be in the room. If you're starting to get really long interventions outside the room, they could be missing out on valuable content that will actually help them shift as well. So try to keep those, it's a balance, right? You'll work it out. So thank you very much. I hope that's helped you in preparing before. And I'm going to pass it over to Henrik now to talk about during the event.
Fantastic, Claudia. Thank you so much. I just want to tag on one comment to the last part you said about interventions and
yes.
knowing the 7 master steps. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 of you that go like, oh my God, but I haven't mastered everything yet to the level that Tony Robbins has. And one thing I just want to put to bed is that you don't have to. And
that's right.
And it's really a skill set that you learn, and the experience comes from doing it more. And the biggest gift you can give the person you're working with and yourselves is the skill set of just being present. Because when you're present, you actually allow listening to come forth. And now they're telling you where they are, and now you can go and you can help them where they're at. And when it comes to remembering tools, here's what I can guarantee, virtually guarantee most of you. When you're present and you're listening to someone, the tools will come to you. Okay, it's going to be like, oh, like it sounds like they have a charge around this thing. Maybe collapse anchor could work. And then you try that out, and then you figure out that it works. And so don't strive for perfection here. Walk in there being willing to help, and everything shall be yours. So with that, we're going to cover what to do during the event, as the event progresses, some of the roles that we're having, and what to do during the days. Yes. So as per usual, we have our morning huddle before the day starts, before doors open. And the first day, typically, no matter which event it is, it's general seating, which means that nobody knows which team they're on yet. Everyone is sitting in the big room. They pick their own seats. Then from day 2 and onwards, you're sitting with your teams. Now, in a virtual world, this would mean that you show up to the same place every day. But in an in-person event, you actually have an assigned area where your group is sitting, where your team is, and the people, your buddies, and the people you do exercises with. So as part of this, and part of the team identity, is that we have bandanas. So bandanas, you know, a bandana you tie around your neck or around your head. And they're different colored bandanas, and each team will have their own colored bandana. And we're also using that to mark the seats, the sections where our teams will be sitting. Now, this will make sense for most of you when you're in the room, but you'd be like, okay, great. So we have a map of which team goes where. And what you haven't experienced yet, if you haven't been in an in-person event, is that we actually mark out those seats. And that's a skill set from the old dark days that my first event back, I was like, right. I totally forgot. But of course. So the important thing to remember, you'll learn more about that when you're in the room, and I won't cover like all the details of how to do that. But the 2 things that you really need to know is that that's why it's so important to be on time.
Yes.
Because we're marking the rooms from the front and back in the room. If you're not there, we can't mark seats. And now all the other teams behind you can't progress, can't move forward. Right? So it's super, super important to be on time, because that way we can mark our seats quickly, and then the teams behind us can mark theirs quickly, and you get Tad and Vicky smiling and beaming and not understanding how smoothly it went. And if you don't show up on time, you might not get the smiles. So speaking from experience here, right? But yeah, but seriously though, you really want to be on time, because it's a cascade of people being on time, and especially if you're in the front of the room, you need to be there before our time, 100%, because that way we can start on time and get it done quickly. Okay. Yes. So the process for how to mark seats, you'll get to know more about when you're in the room. But what you need to know right now is that we'll be marking our seats. Really, really important to be on time. Now, we also have team meetings, much like we do in the virtual world. But what do you do when you're in person? Right? Now you're not isolated with your room. All the other teams are kind of in the same room or same area as you are as well. This means that you need to project more. You can't have a beautiful mic picking up your voice and sending it effortlessly so people can hear and they can raise the volume. If you don't speak loud enough, people can't hear you. And as a senior leader, if you don't help keeping the team tight, sound kind of like dissipates a little bit. It makes it harder for people to be able to connect and really get the value of the team meetings.
Again,
so you need projection. Also, there won't be a timer. So that means senior leaders, and if you have a crew person, you need to help your trainer make sure that the team meeting runs on time. So you need to give them some cues, like 5 minutes, 1 minute, it's time. We need to cut it, right? You don't need to remember the signals right now, but know that part of your responsibility is to make sure that the team meetings run on time. Okay, again, you're the captain of the ship. You're taking people from the start of the meeting all the way to the end, and you're training on the tracks, right? So we also, because we're surrounded with all the other teams, we have our team cheer when? At the end. What happens if we do team cheers in the middle of our team meeting? I mean, we have a great energy in the room and in our team. People really want to cheer, and we have a loud team chant, and now no other team can hear what their trainer and senior leader is talking about. So we really want to make sure that we have the team cheers to the end, like the last minute. Then it's like a free-for-all, go, play, have fun. Before then, no team cheers. That also means that when we're celebrating each other, which I very much encourage you to do, right? Someone do a share. Part of us in building that connection between them is them celebrating each other. So what happens if someone has an amazing share and there's a loud clap? Now the team next can hear their cheer, or their share, sorry, or what the trainer is talking about, or the story that the senior leader is sharing. So that way we have silent clapping, which looks like this. Lots of energy, lots of physiology, a great state, but no sound. Okay, so silent clapping. Also, when you start out your teams early in the event this way, they get anchored to the process of how to do it well. And if you do this only towards the end, they don't know where to go. So a really good suggestion is to focus on doing it the way you want to have it run early. And that way it's really easy for everyone to just keep doing that as they go along. So now we're going to be covering what we do in the main room. Of course, we're answering questions with the point of contact, not only for our teams, by the way, but for anyone who asks us a question. If I get a question from a person on someone else's team, I don't get on the radio or tell them, no, I can't answer your question. I help them, of course, because we're all one big team. We're all one big team. Same thing if someone is not feeling so well, etc. I'm going to go having a conversation with them because we're all part of the one team. That's also where your sensory acuity comes in. If you notice that there's a ton of trainers or senior leaders on that room, but no one is covering the area over there, you might walk that way to make sure that that area is covered. And Vicky's going to be blown away. She's like, wow, what a badass senior leader or trainer that have the sensory acuity to just figure this out without me having to tell them. You start to notice kind of where the energy is high or where there's a lot of people and when there's not. We also help out during snack breaks and handouts and anything that the crew do where information or food needs to get out quick, unless we're occupied in a conversation or answering a question, in which case we would stay with that person. We help out because that way it goes quicker, there's less of an interruption to the seminar, and that way people can get more value. And again, it's supporting the event outcome here that matters. It's also really important, much like in the virtual room, that we play full out, that we're fully engaged. When there's a celebration, we're all celebrating. When Tony asks a question, we shout out the answers. Because again, what are we doing? We're providing the example for everyone else to raise their level. And one of the really cool things is that when people show up on day one, they're a little bit scared and nervous. But then when people start yelling out the answers with a little bit of help from the trainers and senior leaders, they get into the mode of yelling out the answers. And all of a sudden, there's like this switch of the tide where they're in rapport with us and they shout out the answers. And all of a sudden, the room is shouting out the answers and the trainer needs to keep up, right? Or the senior leader. Because now the energy and the standard is set, which is a really cool place to be. So we're going to play full out. Also, we're almost always on task. That means that we're always doing something. if we're not, I mean, if nothing else, we'll be sitting in the room and we're participating fully. But we might also be, you know, a trainer might be on, you know, customer service, or we're helping with registration, or we're mentoring someone, or we're answering questions, or we're doing an intervention. So almost always we have something to do. And depending on your experience in the virtual world, there might be like some time where you just like float along with a seminar and there's not that much for you to do. In the in-person space, you have a lot of time when you're doing something. That's one thing to keep in mind. How can I help? Where can I help? Where should I be? How can I serve? So let's talk about how we show up in the room. Claudia covered a little bit of this, but sensory acuity is huge. Sensory acuity is huge. You'll notice during exercises, for example, if a lot of trainers are over here, we need to go over there. We notice someone walking out very, very fast. Are they upset? Do they need a bio break? Is it disruptive to the room? There's a lot of things that goes into this. And our job always is, how can we help? How can we serve? And which person do we want to serve the most? Right? The big guy in front. I want to make sure that he can serve people in a really big way. That also goes for us. That means that we can't just come running in the room. The room is really peaceful, and senior trainer Henrik runs in with a very different energy and pace. It doesn't go aligned with the flow. I'm going to get some mean looks from Tony because I interrupted his jam, right? So I want to make sure that when we move into the room and when we come back from the room, that it's in sync. We talk about the orange and the blue wave. Okay, so say there's an exercise, there's a writing exercise, there's a music going. Now the senior leaders and trainers stand up and we just like float into the main room, available for questions, ready to help. And then when the exercises are done, you can take your seats. We float back, right? So we're kind of like going in, going out, and we're like in rapport with the energy in the room. Okay, yeah. So we're part of it. Also, this is probably like my favorite topic of all, my favorite time in the Tony space in general. I call it walk in the aisles, and that's when you're supporting people during exercises, because it's such a cool place to connect with real people when they're covering some really important things in their life. And for the last Business Mastery, I took the senior leaders aside because a lot of senior leaders at that event hadn't done a lot of in-person events. So why did I do that? Well, because it took me a long time to figure out that when I'm helping someone or being available for questions, I used to be like, who can I help? Who can I help? Who can I help? Right? I'm here. I'm standing still. I'm looking mean, right? I wasn't available for questions, for making myself available. I was intent, like, where's the hand? Where's the hand? I want to be available for people's questions. And the best way for me to do that, I've noticed, is to walk slowly, to cover my part of the room, kind of like giving them energy, like, so I have a light smile on my face. I'm walking around and I'm very, very approachable, because what will happen is someone is writing down, we're getting stuck in an exercise, and they look up and they be like, oh, I don't get this. And then they see someone who's like nodding, like, you got this. A lot of time they just go back and be like, okay, I got this. If you have a question, they're going to be like, oh, can I ask a question? Because it's so available. Right? So walk in the aisles. When you're doing your first event, you're going to love it. If you remember this, tell me your stories, because I want to know. That's how you support people during exercise, to be available. You do that by smiling, by being approachable, and being in a great what? State. We're also doing mentoring. If you're a senior leader, this goes for you too. You mentor each other. If there's someone who has more experience, please share your wealth of experience with the senior leaders or peers or crew that haven't had that much experience in the live event. Also, obviously, if you're a trainer, you're going to be mentoring your senior leaders. And senior leaders, you're going to be mentoring the crew person that's assigned to your team, if there is one, right? You're also going to be answering questions from the crew, from participants. You're always like mentoring people. But as part of the mentoring process, for a seminar like Date with Destiny, for example, we typically have 3 mentoring conversations inside of the event time frame. And that's where the growth and development forums come in. Some people call it necessary evil. I don't see it that way at all. It's there for you to get clear on what's most important for you right now. And I want to give you a pointer or two about mentoring, both if you're a mentor and a mentee. You want to make sure you put down things that actually matter to you. Here's the general form. I want to have a great event and live in a beautiful state all the time. This is like a personal story, but I think the last time, because I heard it, this was like the 7th conversation in 2 hours that I've heard the same lines. And I was like, and it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't mean, but it's, you know, they were surprised. They were like, what are you doing? I was like, tell me something that matters to you. Give me some, like, how will this improve your life, right? Because the mentoring is where you have an opportunity to have your breakthrough during the event. You have a challenge in your relationship right now, that's what it is. Going through a divorce, that's what it is. Have a big challenge in business, or have been procrastinating on a big project that will take your life to the next level. Let's get that done, right? And at least one of those outcomes, and maybe more, should be just for you in your own personal life. Should not have anything to do with events or skills or anything like that.
And Henrik, if I can just interject, because what you're saying is important, because as an outcome, supporting senior leaders, supporting trainers, because there'll be EMTs on site and resource trainers on site. So support for the trainers there. And also for our Date with Destiny leadership participants, senior leaders, you'll be mentoring them, as well as crew members potentially. This is an opportunity. It's a safe space. You know, if you remember your first time as a participant, we have this family, this chosen family of Tony Robbins, and we're all here for each other. So please, you know, reach out, you know, and senior leader, if you have a bit of a communication problem with your trainer, reach out to the EMT there, reach out to someone. Don't let it sort of build up. Nip it in the bud and address the problem if there appears to be a problem. It may just be a miscommunication. And we're here as senior trainers and EMTs there and resource trainers to support each and every trainer and senior leader on site. Sorry, Henrik, I just wanted to add that.
Oh, fantastic. I appreciate it, Claudia. So last point on mentoring, and this is my own personal take. So, but while I have the spotlight, I'm certainly going to input what I think is most important. As a mentor, you want to give the feedback that will help someone the most. And all feedback is you know, great if delivered well, but sometimes there's a difference between like what could help someone and what would help them the most. And sometimes that is a, you know, direct conversation or something that other people won't say, or, you know, I've certainly had my fair share of direct conversations, but those have been the most impactful ones. And as a mentee, make sure that you get the feedback on what matters most to you. That's your responsibility to make sure that you get the feedback. It's the trainer or the mentor's role to give you feedback, but it's your responsibility to make sure that you get it. Okay? That means that if anyone comes back and be like, I didn't get the feedback, I would ask, like, why? Don't you like feedback? Like, what's going on? Make sure you get it. So, because that way you can progress further faster. So a couple of things to keep in mind before we wrap up this part is also, because we're in person, we need to be aware that if we're like me being a male talking to a female in the hallway that is not very well lit, it's not a good look. We need to be very aware that the conversations that we have are in a public space with people around. And we also want to make sure that if we have a sensitive conversation with me, a male, with a female participant, we want to have another female present. And this is for the safety of the female, but also very much safety for the male. We don't want to have a lot of or any miscommunication where people can feel misunderstood, right?
He said, she said. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's something that in the virtual space is not as prevalent because we're not in physical proximity, if that makes sense. But certainly in person is very, very, very important. Also, you want to make sure that you have appropriate attire. And that means the black bottoms for everyone. Black pants, You know, no tight yoga pants showing off your curves kind of thing. We need to be professional and representative for Tony's event and Tony's standard, right?
Yeah.
So the way we do that is that we dress professionally, and we have black bottoms, and then we have our trainers and leader shirts.
And jackets, bring your jackets.
And jackets. Yeah, and also if this is your first in-person event, I mean, suit up with warm clothes, just gonna tell you. Right?
Like,
So you want to make sure that you have your layers, something that you can talk about. Also, lastly, Tony sees everything. Okay, when you're in the room, it's not a great time to be on the phone, to have your computer up, to be engaged in personal conversation with a friend. It's not what we do. That we can do in a break, that we can step outside of the room and have one of those conversations. But Tony sees everything, and he really feels the energy of the room. And if you're engaged in a conversation in the back of the room, one of the questions in his mind could be like, is there something wrong? Is there something I need to fix? Is there something, right? This goes for trainers and senior leaders both. So we want to make sure that when Tony's on stage, the press is on Tony and we play full out. So that is what we do during the event. It sounds like a lot of things, but it's really not. It all comes back to how can we help? And what we're helping with is the event outcomes to make sure that everyone has a fantastic experience. Okay, so this is really only one big thing. Now, before I throw it back to Claudia, I'm going to cover one or two things about something that we can do after the event. And first of all, celebrate yourself, because you had a lot of really cool moments. And it's really cool to capture that in a journal, or some things you learned, or some of your achievements. Maybe you had an intervention and you got the result. Write that down so you can celebrate that. There might also be, if you didn't have time to have the final mentoring conversation, make sure you have that. As the mentor, make sure you schedule that so people can get their feedback and also be, have their breakthrough. And if you're a mentee, make sure you get that conversation, set up a time before you leave the event so you can get the mentoring in, if you will, because that's of great value to everyone. Okay, rising tide lifts all boats. And if you're a trainer, obviously you want to put in the feedback into Airtable as usual.
yes.
Which is, and senior leaders, if you're not aware, like the reason we do that is that we want to make sure we can support and we can track and make sure that we're really serving each other. And this goes for trainers and master trainers and senior trainers. We all have a mentor, and the feedback is really, really important, because if there's no feedback, then there's nothing to go on when we help each other. Okay, so it's a really, really fun process, the live event. I'll throw it back to Claudia.
Thanks, Henrik. And you pointed out so many important things. Henrik and I were discussing it in preparing this outline, all the little nuances that can come up. And I just cannot reiterate enough that what Henrik said, that get it set up, your standard up front, and role model that, and then make little tweaks, but get it as tight as you can right up front, so that you're feeling much more certain that you're prepared, that you're being present and proactive, like I was talking about, and then doing that during the event, asking for help. We're only a question away of, can you please point me in this direction? Everybody wants to support each other. Well, thank you very much for being here. I thought what we could do in summary for this preparation of your next in-person event on site, specifically for Date with Destiny 2023, is if you imagine going to your next in-person event, that you're showing up excited, certain, and knowing that you have everything, absolutely everything you need to serve the participants and serve the team within you. And you have an enormous amount of fun and learning and just growth within yourself doing this. So imagine someone asking you a question, a participant perhaps, to deal with something that's been difficult in their life. And you say, yes, I can. And sincerely meaning it, because you came prepared, you were totally present, and you were fully proactive. Close your eyes if you like, or if you're walking, as Henrik does when he's doing these trainings, he's walking. So you want to keep your eyes open, or if you're driving, which is usually when I'm listening to the trainings, please keep your eyes open, be safe. Just take in a few deep breaths. That's it. Nice, another deep breath. Now imagine you are at the end of Date with Destiny 2023. And you're standing on a chair at the end of the event team meeting as senior leader or as trainer. And the smiles and sheer joy, the lightness of the participants is just emanating outwards and from yourselves and bouncing back to each other. And everyone's just so full of joy and excitement. These people, these participants, these beautiful souls have transformed before your eyes. Together, you, your senior leader and your trainer, you have supported these beautiful souls during, a 6-7 day journey to new possibilities, to new decisions, and you've helped them truly commit to taking massive action. It's because of you being there, yes, you, that has made this difference for them. They're smiling, absolutely elated that their lives will truly never be the same again. They have a knowing and a deep belief that yes, they can, that they must, and it is done, in Felix Lin's famous words. And it is all because of you. Yes, you, absolutely you. You showed up, prepared, present, and proactive. Breathe this state, this feeling absolutely into your entire body. Just breathe it in. Do whatever you need to do right now to take it to a 10. That's it. Really see yourself at this end of this event, feeling it in your entire body. Anchor it in now. That's it. Take this feeling state deep inside you. Own it. It is yours. It's your trainer triad, your senior leader triad. And know that you and your team are embarking on the very best date with destiny in the history of the universe. And only when you're ready, open your eyes gently and come back to us now. Thank you. Thank you for being on this training with us today. We love you. We appreciate your time. Thank you, Henrik, for the opportunity to present. I always love working and serving alongside Henrik. We have a lot of fun. And we wish you a lot of fun between each other and in your teams and on site in person.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Henrik,
Thank you,
did you
Claudia.
want to say anything?
I have one more thing to add.
Yes.
I'm sure there's one or two of you that go like, wow, this is a lot of information. How do I remember all this? And you don't have to. This is really a framework where when you show up at the in-person event, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Oh, this is how you do that. Oh yeah, now it makes sense. So this is really like kind of like painting the picture for the differences between a virtual event and an in-person event. And as you show up at an in-person event, you will see where all of these pieces of the puzzle fit together. So if you don't have to know everything, but you have all the information, everything that remains is for you to show up, be present, help some people, and have an absolutely incredible event. So with that, from me and Claudia, thank you so much for listening to the training, and we'll see you at the next in-person event.
And give big hugs. Thank you. Bye, guys.